listen to the fall to the floor.
Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. And today it's going to be pens. 9 of them to be precise. 9 deltas to be even more precise. A few months ago I did a video on 7 deltas, so this is a video on 9. I had been delaying this video because I still have one in transit. My benefactor who has been purchasing some from Marte Mardena. Now their shipping is not the 1 or 2 days that it used to be, but now seems to take 6 to 8 weeks. But you know, at the end of the day, it's not a pen I need right away. I wanted to get one to kind of complete, I know this is kind of eclectic group here, but kind of complete what I would call the modern style that seems to be available now on the internet, and I think the price and quality is excellent. We're going to cover a little bit of that as we go through these. So starting from bottom up, and I've kind of put these in somewhat of an order. I've toyed with what order they should be in, so this is just going to be more on style and where they're at in far as writing experiences go. So at the bottom is actually the lowest cost Delta, the Unica, which I got at the Fountain Pen Hospital, and I wrote with a few of them, and this nib I fell in love with, so it joined my collection, and I actually paid list price for it. So I know for those of you that may be shocked, but yes, I did. But you know, that's one of those things where the list price was reasonable, and you know, to me the writing experience is always what gives me the pleasure from the pen. Obviously I enjoy the way it's made, the way it looks, and all of those other attributes, but if writing's not what I like, then the pen really doesn't serve a function for me. So moving up is the Seawood, which has a ground nib. So I'm going to discuss some of these that have been ground and some have not been ground. And the Seawood was one of those that I bought because I love wood pens. I don't like the new ones that are turned by some of the pen manufacturers, but you know, it's not a style that I like. But I have a few wooden pens, some made by Pilot. And this one I think is great. Writes well, and I have it ground to a little bit of an oblique. And then is probably the more unique pen of this series is the MoMA pen from Delta. It's all metal, it's aluminum. It just has a nice feel to it, a beautiful broad nib. It's steel nib, it's a little bit of a dark color on it. So it's really, again, all of these pens to me show an artistic quality which I don't find in any other pens. I have to be very truthful in my feelings on the matter. The materials that they use are excellent. The quality of their manufacturing is excellent. The way the pieces put together, the way the different metal components are used, the acrylics that they use, you know, the resins, they call them special resins, you know, but I just love the way they look, so to me that makes it worthwhile. The next one here is the Israeli 50th anniversary one, and I put this one kind of in, I have a few indigenous people pens, and I think these are pens that Delta makes to celebrate specific occasions. So all of these pens except the MoMA pen are individually serialized, and some of them are one of a set of a limited number of pens. So we'll look at those a little bit more. I just love the white and blue combination, the nice silver casting here. It's just, again, great put together. And as we get up and now into these other pens like the Seawood, you'll notice that they all have a cap design, which is very, very common. They have an end cap, which is very common. Then they have a barrel section. Some of the materials are similar, some of them are different. So that's what makes these unique. And all of these nibs, I love the way they write. I love the feedback that they give. Some of them are softer than others, but none of them are stiff nails. So to me, that's another thing that I enjoy when I write with a pen. I like a little bit of feedback, both from the way the nib interacts with the paper as well as how the nib responds to pressure. So the next one is the most expensive one I bought. I bought at the DC Pen Show, the Hong Kong anniversary one of 3 that they made, and this is serialized as one of 300 that they made. So That's probably my more unique and more different one, and it's made out of hard rubber ebonite. It came together really nicely, and this is plated sterling, so again, they always use a lot of precious metals, and as we move up into the time frame, you'll see some of the changes that came about. These next two are the same pen. It's the 365 pen, the Daily Writer pen. I did a review on the red one, and I accidentally bought the blue one. I know that's kind of hard to say, but you know, I bid on it and didn't expect to win, and I won. One is a fine, one is a medium, so I get to compare the two nibs. They both have a nice, interesting band, an open filigree type of design at the end of the cap. All these pens are good size pens. That's the other thing that Delta does. I think they do make some minis and some small pens, but they're not at all the majority of their pens. The majority of their pens are quite large. So last but not least, in many ways, is the Hell's Bells, which is my first Federico one, and this is the first of the modern series that Marte Modena seems to be coming up with. So the band here, instead of these, which were sterling, these four here, these bands are stainless steel. They're engraved. I think they look great. I think they work great. They're functional. So that is fine from my perspective. And the Hell's Bells has a 14 karat nib in it. The nib in the beginning wasn't one that I fell in love with, but now it's become a Daily Writer, and I've used it every day for the past month and a half, and I put different types of inks in it, and every day I use it, I enjoy it, and I think it's just the right size, just the right feel in my hand. I love the way the acrylics look. And then at the very top here is another Federico, so it's a capture converter, the end caps come off. And I got this one because, in other words, I got it for a very good price. It has a very large nib in it, and it's a lot softer than the nib in the Hell's Bells, and that's pretty much why I got it. And also the color combination's a little bit different, you know, kind of in the Dulce Vita orange here, but instead of black, they have red. And they've Delta's experimented with a number of different color combinations. There's brown, there's black, I've seen white. And obviously, as you can see, the section, they've done different types of acrylics in the barrels to give them a look that's, to me, unique and very interesting. You know, when you talk about liking the way something looks, that's a very individual thing. In video, you really can't get a feel of the pen. You can't, you know, so when you combine the way that it looks with the way that it feels in the hand, the way that it's manufactured, the pleasure that you get from owning it. So one of my old-time friends that I've known for a long time had a friend of his who many years ago went out and bought the most expensive stereo he could find. And those of us that are familiar with the 60s and 70s, when home stereos became popular, and you could spend what you might, more than you might buy a car for back in those days. So so he bought the stereo, you know, top of the line, put it in his family room, and he admits that he didn't play it that often, that he didn't listen to it that often, but he got pleasure from owning it. He got pleasure from looking at it. And that's kind of one of the aspects of collecting pens. I obviously have many more pens than I need, but I enjoy each one of them and appreciate them for what they are. Both their positive traits and their traits that may not be something that I like, but I still try to understand them from a holistic perspective and those things. So we're going to take a little bit more of a deeper dive in this. Sorry for the long intro, but to me, I think it's just interesting, and we also have some nice sunlight coming in, so hopefully the colors and everything is coming across well. So now we've exposed the functional part of the pen, the nib. Like all the Delta nibs, I particularly like the way that they have put different types of engravings, markings on their nibs. Some of them are generic, some of them are unique to that particular pen, especially like the Hong Kong pen and the Israeli pen. I'm trying to keep these all lined up so the bottom of the section is lined up so you can get an idea of the size of the nibs, and that's kind of like the dark nib on the MoMA design. Everything lines up well. The Hong Kong one is a lever fill. Some of these sections match the cap, some of them match the barrel. All of them have thought put into them, and I think that's the other thing that I really enjoy and appreciate about all of my Delta pens is they have a just a complete pen. It's not like a mishmash of parts, or it's not like just taking a standard design and making minor changes to it. I mean, obviously, the Dolce Vita look has started. This pen is from the mid 2000s, 2004, 2007. They probably made it, and that idea has evolved a little bit, as you can tell here. But it's also kind of similar in all of their pens. And then the Unica was a little bit different design. You know, some of them have a little metal at the bottom between the section and the barrel, but most of them do not. This one doesn't have a cap band on it, the Unica. The rest of them do. Of course, the all-metal one doesn't need one. So what I'm going to do is just go down and give you a really close-up look of the different nibs here, and let you appreciate some of the design work that's gone into them. We're going to do these in groups. So this is the ones that were at the bottom 5. You have your Unica, your Seawood, your MoMA, your Israeli, and your Hong Kong pen. So you can see that they all are slightly different design work. The MoMA one looks to have a very large opening between the tines, but I haven't noticed that in the writing style. The Unica one is a matte finish. That's a classic steel nib, and it ground up very, very well when I had it ground. As we compare the Hong Kong and the Israeli one, you can see they have unique engravings on them representative of the type of pen. And then we go into the two 365s, and you can see they're quite similar, or they are the same nib. One's medium, one's fine, and I think that's even quite apparent from looking at the tipping material on those. Then we come up against the Hell's Bells, which is rhodium plated 14 karat, and then you also have the one that's on the large Federico, and there you can see the modern Delta logo, which is the nib. You know, one's kind of like a relief of the other one, and the earlier, the 360s 5s have that kind of stylistic D, so they changed their logo from one time to another. These nibs have Millennium on them. I just think that was a marking and trademarking. And that, as you can see, is a pretty big nib on that pen. But the scroll work stayed the same, but they changed the way that the labeling is done and the logo is done. Again, we talked about the detail, the attention to detail, the look. So we're just going to do a drive-by on the different barrels and the different materials, and hopefully you can get an appreciation for the depth, the chatoyancy, just the look and the color, the saturation. I just love the way that they do that. And now we're looking at the center bands, and these are the engraved ones. There's a gold-plated one, and there's just a rhodium-plated one. These are sterling, probably cast sterling. In addition to these two are cast sterling, and the MoMA, and we have different things on the Seawood and the Unica. So here is the Hell's Bells, the Federico one, which is the newer version of the Dolce Vita line. And then we have a Dolce Vita Zen, which is the earlier style. Yeah, you see the similarities, but to me, one of the main differences they did, and we're going to get in close here, is the way the cap band was done. The bottom one, the Dolce Vita Zen, is a cast sterling, and the other one is engraved stainless steel. So I think that's an okay change that they made. Obviously, it saves money, makes the pen more affordable, but yet it doesn't really detract from either the functionality or the aesthetics of the pen. Delta's always good at labeling their pens, giving them a name and also a unique serial number. Here we have 0606. Again, showing how they do unique work on this Return to China one, the Hong Kong version. This is number 110 out of 300. The Israel one is the older style. This is from the late 1990s. So this is number 337 out of 1948, the year that Israel was founded. And the Delta is not engraved. It's kind of like painted on, or some type of epoxy was used there. So again, they continue to do the unique numbering and identification. On the 365, which is a little bit later than the Hong Kong one, they're still putting the unique numbering on the clip band, that's opposite the clip. On the Seawood one, they put the unique number in the plastic at the bottom of the cap, and they kind of engraved the Seawood there into the wood of the cap. So this is number 1134, and they always identify Italy as the place of manufacture. And one thing that I liked is even the Unica, which is a low price pen. Here we are, this is number 50 of 100. So only 100 of this particular one model was made for the Fountain Pen Hospital in New York City. Again, the acrylic is excellent. I really like it. And they still continue to impress with how they do things, even in their low end. So as I talked about, it's the writing that really makes the pen of value to me. I will collect for looks, I will collect for other reasons, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't write, then it just goes into a box for later on. All the Deltas have an unscrew cap, all of them post, and even though this is a big pen, it's very comfortable posted. It feels nice, it's good balance, which is again very typical of Deltas. My current ink in this is KWZ turquoise, not the iron gall version. This pen writes first time every time. It writes consistently. And you can hear a little bit of feedback. This is Fabriano paper, so it's not as smooth as Clairefontaine or Rhodia. But what I like about this pen is I can write small or large. The nib really doesn't have any flex to it. I mean, it feels a little bit soft, but as you put pressure down, it basically just puts out more ink. It doesn't really spread the tines much, but when you're doing a lot of writing, which I've done with this pen, the flexing is never something you really can use or do whatever. I mean, if you're writing a letter and you want to spend, a half hour, 45 minutes writing a letter, and you're going to do a lot of expressive writing, then a flex nib is beautiful. But if you're jotting down some notes and you're writing fast and things of that nature, then the flex nib may or may not be what you want. So this Delta Zen was probably the first Delta that I just really fell in love with from all different aspects. All Deltas seem to have a real quality feel to them. I mean, it's obviously when you pick up the pen, they all have decent weights. It's just good. And this is almost like a perfect size. I know my Heritage 91 was the perfect pen, but this comes close to being a perfect pen in a much different way. This also has the smallest nib of my Deltas. I'm on a little bit of a zoom, so it's not going to focus very close, but as you can see, that nib has been ground. But what makes this beautiful is this just glides across the paper. And watch this. So if you're going to go horizontal, you're going to get a medium to broad line, but if you go vertical, you get double broad to almost triple broad. And you can do that. It doesn't require any real pressure. If you add some pressure, then it can really open up, as you can see. But this is just beautiful. I really like the way this works on the paper. I'm going to tell you what ink is in here. I have to go check. But this is also another pen that I can write with for many hours. The section is interesting because it doesn't flare out. It's kind of conical and it narrows down towards the nib, but you can hold this pen anywhere you want. There's nothing sharp here. I don't even really notice where the threads are. So this is, I wanted to make something completely the opposite of what we had with the turquoise, the Hell's Bells one. But this pen I could, like I say, can write with for days. This is the ink that's in the Delta Zen. I have a couple of these sample bottles. I haven't done a full review on them, but I like them. They're nice. So this is another pen that impressed me on its writing, and as I mentioned before, just the feel and how everything's put together, the color combinations. But this has what I would call a typical Delta nib in it. They're all, usually marked on the side. This is a medium. You know, it's a little bit of a hard start here, but I didn't put much pressure on it. You know, this nib requires a little bit of pressure to make certain that it writes, and some nibs are like that, and also this pen has been sitting for a while. This is a fairly soft nib, which I really enjoy. This is KWZ Gummy Berry, and this is an Iron Gall ink. As you can hear, it's really smooth on this paper. And this is another pen that you can write for long periods of time with. Let's take a look at this nib a little bit close up. The other thing that most Delta pens do is they lay down a good patch of ink. I've never really had a dry writer in my Delta. Like you can see how it opens up a little bit. So, thank you for watching. I'm at the edge of my focus here on this zoom, so it'll come in and out. So hopefully you've enjoyed this view of a few Delta pens. I know some of you out there also love Deltas like I do, so that's always nice. So keep on writing, keep on having fun. Ciao, later.